Next In.
Hi, I am Wes Nunley, the host of Next In, and I'm on today with John Roa, the VP of Engineering for LendingFront. John, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Wes. I'm happy to be here.
Good, good, good. Man, I would love to just open it up by you kind of telling me what LendingFront is all about and kind of what your scope is there, and we can just go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So at LendingFront, we created a white label solution to handle um, the loans for financial companies that they want to handle the loan process and they want to handle the origination and and then the servicing side. So we offer the technology and they take care of getting clients and use our technology.
Yeah, very cool. So squarely in the fintech space.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, and you've been there for, I think, if memory serves me right, roughly 6 years. Were you kind of early on with them when they started?
I started when there was a small team. I think not more than 5 engineers.
Okay. And
So
what's
yeah,
that team look like today?
right now the engineering team is about 40 or 50 engineers,
Yeah, that's
and
that's good growth.
yeah, it's been a nice journey. Yeah, so different skill set depending on the size. Sometimes it's more like hands-on skills
Yeah.
I was doing every day, and then right now it's more like managerial and coaching. So yeah, it's been interesting to see to change that approach.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Do you enjoy coaching?
Yeah, it's definitely a great way to make a broader impact, because although I really like being hands-on, I know the impact is limited. If you are able to coach and to positively influence a team, you will be able to create to make a greater impact.
Yeah, by replicating, I mean essentially replicating yourself, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So look, you're at the VP level today, but clearly people do not start out as VPs of engineering. So I would love to hear your story and how you got into engineering and just kind of how you've progressed to that vice president and people leader level that you're at now.
yeah, absolutely. So I started when I was a teenager. I started coding because I was checking alternatives to PowerPoint. So I started playing around with a tool called Flask.
Yeah,
Sorry, Flash. It was Flash from Macromedia. Was the name back then, and you were able to create small animations. Yeah. So I was able to create a small animation at school, and that then I knew that there was a language called ActionScript inside that, and that really it hit me. It was very exciting to see that I was able to automate some actions and so on. And then that is when the programming bug, got there, and I was very interested in that. So since then I started working small companies, for companies that their business is to build software for other companies. So I started growing from there. I started actually documenting software. I didn't know how to write code then, so I started like creating the documentations, creating the manuals, taking snapshots and tutorials. So it was interesting to see how was the software working. And then as I was making a better progress understanding coding, then I started to help with a few stories, helping with a few features, changing labels and so on. And during um a few years, I would say like 5 years, 6 years, I was focused on getting the hard skills of programming. And then I got the opportunity to lead a small team. It was a couple of engineers. That was very exciting. It was a great transition, because some people say it as you're being promoted, but some other people say it's like no, it's like on the side. When you move on the side,
right.
that when you have to coordinate a team, it's a different skill set that you should have when you are being the technical, let's say, authority. Yeah. So it's very interesting to learn about that and read books and check out a few podcasts about leadership in technology. So that was challenging, but at the same time exciting. And then um, I was working in other companies in the same position, like leading a small team. And then when I joined LendingFront, was pretty much the same, like a small team. And then we started growing. So when that started, when I joined, we were like a small team, and then we joined to two teams. We separated the big team, and then we were closing more clients, and we were able to create more teams to hire. So I had to learn how to hire,
Yeah.
to do the interviews and know when a person has potentials. Maybe they don't have the skills right away, but they might get them in a couple months, depending on what you're looking for. So that's when I made my way through that managerial position. And yeah, right now we are five teams, development teams, and then one DevOps team.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, to this point is very interesting to see the big responsibility about checking out where the product is heading, how the users are uh, using, how the users are interacting with the platform, and see how you can improve it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what I picked up on there in your story is, and maybe I misunderstood, but are you a self-taught engineer?
Correct, yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah, for some reason, my relationship with the academy is not, well, is not
Neither is
exactly
mine.
the best. Yeah. So when I was at the university, I was a little bit bored, because for me it was like, okay, I'm learning to do this, but why? Well, how can I use this? So
Right.
when I was studying, for me was I was not motivated, so I was a very bad student, and the only assignment that I was really good at was programming, because I used to print the code and study it when I was commuting. Back then, when it was not normal to have a laptop, so I used to do that, and to go to the library and get a book, very fat book of
Yeah.
Java, and learning about it. So I was very passionate about it, and I was like, maybe the this engineering field is what I like, but I really like is programming. So I decided to work for a company instead of continue studying.
Nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm the same. I'm a college dropout. I don't know if I'll ever go. I used to tell myself I was going to go back and finish my degree, and now I'm like, I'm not gonna lie, man. I'm super happy in my career. I've reached higher levels than I thought I was going to, and I don't see any use in going back to school. So I would imagine you feel similarly. I mean, you're a VP of engineering. Like, what's at this point, what is finishing a bachelor's going to do for you, right? Like,
Right. Yeah. That's a good point. I would say that in this very moment, I wouldn't say it would be a much value. However, my mom is very, hey, I would be nice to see you with a degree. It would be, I would feel very proud. So because of that, I started finishing the last subjects that I had to finish to get the degree. So I finished the last one last year, and I'm waiting for the ceremony. But it was because of that, not because of
yeah, that's a pure
like,
motivation, man. You did it
yeah.
for your mom. I
Yeah.
can't say anything negative about that. Really quick, John, I'm very bad about chasing rabbits and going down rabbit trails,
Yeah.
but
Don't worry.
when you have your screen blurred, but when you moved your hand, I think I spotted a cycling helmet.
Oh yeah.
Are you a cyclist?
Yeah. I do my best. I practice every weekend at least.
Yeah,
So yeah, actually, it was in a race, the New York race. It was a 100 miles race.
yeah,
So I was there. It was, I
dude,
mean, I was not the best, definitely not, but the goal was to finish it,
yeah,
and I managed. So it was nice. Yeah.
yeah, dude, that's awesome. So man, I'm from a very rural area, but my dad had worked in Nashville in downtown my whole life, and
Mm,
when I was in high school, my dad comes home and he said, "Hey, a lot of my colleagues are into golf, but that bores me. I don't want to take up golf." He said, "But some of them are into cycling." And he
mm,
said, "So, I want to start cycling." And so we didn't know anything, man, at all,
mm,
like about the sport of cycling. And my dad buys me a road bike from Walmart. And that's as nice as you can imagine a road bike from Walmart might be.
Mhm.
But we thought it was really cool. It had thin tires and it had more gears than the bike I grew up riding. And so we showed up to a 100-mile race with this thing.
Oh,
And
really? Oh, my.
I'm in basketball shorts
Yeah.
and Jordans on a Walmart bike. And everyone is in cycling jerseys.
I
One
know,
guy was
very
riding.
tight.
Yeah, absolutely. One guy was riding. I was like 15 or 16. One guy was riding a Pinarello Dogma.
Oh,
There's
my.
a ton of specialized, Roubaix and Tarmacs and
Yeah.
Cannondales. And at the time, I didn't know anything. And I just remember my dad looking at me, and my dad's on this metal Diamondback, this big clunky metal bike, and he goes, "I don't think we should be here." And but we always said, you start something, you need to finish it. And ironically, after I told you I didn't finish college, but we said that, and so we decided to embark on this ride. And man, ended up finishing middle of the pack just on pure grit, and literally left that day. And me and my dad both went to the cycling store and bought like legitimate road bikes. So what do you ride, man?
I have an S-Works.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, it's very nice, but I mean, wow, like completing a race that long with that bike. Oh my God.
It was
Hats off.
painful.
Jesus Christ.
I had no idea what we had gotten into. The funniest part of it was there's a big private university even though we're in a rural area, there's a big private university there called Swanee, or the University of the South. They're called a hidden Ivy League, and they have their own cycling team. And about mile 26 or 27, I'd caught up to them, and they look back, and there's this kid in sneakers and basketball shorts on a bicycle from Walmart, and they were angry, man. They did not like it. They did not like it at all. And so they started pedaling faster, and they left me. And then I saw them. I'm just hard-headed, man. I'm really hard-headed and really competitive. And I saw them take one of the stops, and they grabbed, they got the stops with, peanut butter sandwiches and Gatorade.
Mhm.
And I needed to stop, like, desperately. Like, I was almost
Yeah.
out of water. And I was like, I'm not stopping. Like,
really?
no way.
Yeah.
And I left. I finished that race like a couple minutes behind them.
Oh my God, that's so good.
Yeah. So man, seeing that, it just
Amazing.
made that helmet, man, it just flooded my mind with memories. So you ride an
Yeah.
S-Works, and you just did a 100-miler.
Yeah, it was a month ago. So yeah, it was nice. It was very nice, and also a training to be able to
Yeah.
to reach the numbers that you want, either time, it's usually time. So you want to get there like 1 hour less than you usually do on training, for example, something like that, or half minutes. It depends on how long the race is.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was great. Actually, at the end of the race, when I arrived, and it was super tired. I was like, oh my God, this is a great accomplishment, personally. And then like 2 minutes ago, a guy that is like 75 years old arrived, and I was like, oh my God,
Yeah.
this guy is unbelievable.
Yes, I know those people, man. One of the cool things about cycling is it's a great fitness activity, and it's something that if you can do for a long time, because it doesn't beat your body up like running.
Right.
Man, my background, I was a sniper in the Army, and we used to run all the time. You'd show up on Monday and run 8 or 9 miles. And man, I hate running. I hate everything about
Me
it.
too.
The entire idea of running.
Sucks.
Like, no one's chasing me. I'm not, like, there's no point. Like, to me, there's no point. But cycling, man, I love being on my bike.
That's
Man,
very nice.
other things you do outside of work. I believe you started a tech conference. Am I right? Can you kind of tell me about that?
That's true. Yes. 6 years ago, we started the PyCon Colombia conference, which is a conference around the Python programming language.
Yeah.
So when I was 7 years ago, I was living in Colombia, and I moved from Bogota, which is the capital city, to Medellin, which some people could say that is the technological hub in Colombia. So there are startups there, and there are a lot of people that work in technology in Medellin. So when I was there, I was like, oh, that would be nice to check out the community, the Python community in Medellin. So we get together with the leaders, and we start to to get some traction with the community. And then we got the idea like, okay, that it would be great to have a conference here for Python, because back then it was a conference for JavaScript.
Yeah.
It was like a couple of years they organized the conference, but that's it. I don't recall there was another conference, maybe Ruby, but there was not a Python conference. Then we started. We say, okay, let's give it a shot. Let's see how it goes. And yeah, the first conference was small, but at the same time was fulfilling to be able to get together the enthusiasts and the professionals. Actually, the creator of Django was one of the keynotes, so
Oh,
it
very.
was amazing that Jacob Kaplan Moss, he flew to Colombia, and he was with us. So it was like unbelievable to see the people that you admire, to see them giving
Yeah.
their keynote, and then you can talk to them. It was like surreal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Dude,
yeah,
that is awesome, man.
yeah.
So
That's so cool. Yeah.
that was 6 years. And so have you done it ever? Have you been able to? Obviously, I think the COVID year probably didn't help you, but have you been able to keep it going?
Yes, yeah. I think part of that is being stubborn. So it's like, no, we have to do it. Maybe in a different format or maybe a different size, but we have to keep the consistency. That was one of the main guidelines that we got. So when COVID hit, we switched to online. So we did the online conference when COVID hit in fact 2020 was in February. So it was very interesting because it was in February. A conference was on site. We had no idea about COVID,
Right.
and then a couple months, like in March or early April, boom, lockdowns.
Yeah.
So we were like, oh my god, we were so lucky. But
Yeah.
in 2021, COVID was still there, of course. So we switched to online, and we did it in 2021 online, 2022 online. Also, it was 2 weeks ago was the conference, and yeah, we're planning as if we were going to make the conference on site next year. So
Cool.
we are already contacting venues and thinking about keynotes and so on. So yeah, it's been a nice journey and a lot of lessons learned about how do you lead a team of people that they're not getting paid for this. It's like it's just because you love technology and you love your country and you want to do something greater,
Right.
or than than working on a company. So it's been interesting to learn about that and make it happen.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
What do you think has enabled you to grow your career the way that you have? You're talking about being a self-taught engineer and
Yeah.
now being a VP of engineering at a company that's tripled its growth since you've been there. Like, what do you think for you personally has been instrumental in that growth?
I think the main characteristic is being stubborn, right? When I was teenager and later, I don't see myself disciplined per se, but it's like when something really gets me to think really hard about, I cannot do anything else. It's like an obsession, a terrible obsession. So in technology, actually, it turns out that pays off pretty good. So when I have a bug, it's like, oh my god, this is personal. I have to fix this.
Yeah.
Uh, and when some people say, oh, I couldn't, and I say, okay, let's check it out. There has to be a way. So that same attitude helped me significantly when I'm coding, when I'm leading a team, when I'm creating budgets. Like, hey, how do we make this happen even though there are few resources? We have a tight schedule. How can we do it? Like that stubbornness of there has to be a way, like finding a path. I applied that same principle to the different positions and
Yeah.
responsibilities. So I would say that that's the main element that has been very helpful for me.
Yeah. Yeah, man, having grit and then overcoming obstacles. That I talk to tons of engineers every single day, and the refrain I hear most often from them, especially when they're looking for a new role, is that they don't feel like they're being challenged anymore, right?
Yeah,
Because you want that challenge, you want that problem to solve, and then most engineers that I know, when they get discontent at a company, they're not discontent because the people all of a sudden they woke up one day and they were jerks. No, they still like the people. It's that they've kind of figured it out.
Mm-hmm.
They're not being challenged. There's no new problems to solve. And so, man, that's something I hear regularly.
Yeah.
When you think about transitioning from being an IC to being a people leader like you have,
Mm-hmm.
what's impacted you there in terms of influencing your thinking?
I think the main element that I see is that when you are an individual contributor, is all on you, right? You are the
Right.
only responsible. But when there is a team, and I learned that from Steve Jobs, is like the best managers are the ones that do not want to manage, are the ones that they know they're the only ones, they feel they're the only ones that can do it well, so they get to manage to have everything in control. So that is very interesting. So when I changed that position, I felt a little bit that way. But at the same time, when I was with a team and I noticed, oh my god, this person, this engineer is really good, and really curious, and also had this obsession about finding the issue and fix it. So like creating teams and like creating partnerships. So in my case, I don't see myself as a boss. It's more like I create partnerships with the people. So
Right.
when I get together in one-on-ones, I know that for some people, the work-life balance and the family time is super important. For some other people, they are super focused on growth and having an exceptional career. And some other people have a different perspective. So one of the things that I learned when I became, when I stopped being an individual contributor, is to say, okay, this is way beyond code and way beyond technology. It's about understanding the people that you are working with,
Yeah.
and getting yourself educated on how to make the best, make them to do the best as they can.
Right.
So that was a big change, because it was no longer coding or spending long hours trying to debug something. Was getting getting every person motivated, or giving some hints to the people to for them to find the answers. So that it was a big change. It was such big change that when I started being a leader, one of the first things that I did is that I volunteered to be a teacher, a programming teacher
Yeah.
for teenagers. So for me, it was like, okay, I don't know how to lead. I read a few books, and then I say, okay, my perspective was, my reasoning was, if I know how to teach a teenager and have the patience to do it and the way to do it in non-technical terms, that would be helpful.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. So it was very interesting. At night, I used to do that. Code Rise is the organization. It's in Colombia, and I did that. So at night, like 7 p.m. to 9 p.m., I was teaching JavaScript. And, okay, how do you teach? What is a class, or what is an array? What is an object, or a dictionary? So it got me reading about how to the process of transferring knowledge to another person. It was definitely not related to technology, but for me, there was a crucial element to know to give the best results as a leader.
Yeah. That's awesome. You talk about teenagers, man. You went straight into the gauntlet teaching teenagers.
Yeah, it was
That's,
interesting. The opportunity just came. I was like,
yeah.
oh my god, this is perfect. It's like
Yeah.
I was super busy and whatever, but I tried to check out, okay, how this thing can create a benefit on my career.
Right.
And I would say, okay, yes, this is a perfect opportunity. Let's do it. I didn't do it before, but that's nice.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
awesome, man. So, let, let me ask you this: if you could go back with who you are now and talk to yourself 8 years ago, 9 years ago, what advice would you give to yourself as an engineer?
Well, besides buying a bunch of Bitcoin, mm, I
Yeah.
would say I would say that maybe I focused too much on the technology, and I usually in my earlier stages of my career I lost sight on the business. Yeah. So back when I was starting to code, in that moment, that was 2000, let's say 8. uh, in that moment, Facebook was already funded, right, and created. So it's like after you read the biographies and so on, you say, "Oh my God, the people in their late, like teenagers on their 19 or 20 years old, yeah, they code and everything, but they from coding to having the concept of product and how you solve a problem on the in that many people have, that piece I learned that only on the late stages. So the advice that I would give to my younger self would be to, hey, also check out why you are building this technology and what is the problem you're solving.
Yeah.
Yeah, that creates a more complete professional, I would say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I can definitely see how, as an engineer, that would be instrumental to growing in your career because, if you're only ever focused on the micro, the line
Right.
of code you're writing today, you don't really
Right.
understand the overall organizational goals and business goals, then you're gonna kneecap yourself, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
That's good. That's good. So, man, a couple more questions here, and we're getting on that 30-minute window, but as soon I'm going to make the assumption, and I hope I'm assuming correctly, that someone who taught themselves how to code is also a reader. What
Mm.
books have influenced you the most in your growth and in your career?
I think for the latest part of my career, there are two books that it created a big impact on me. One is called Never Split the Difference, and that was written by Chris Ross, I think is the name, and he was an expert on negotiating with terrorists, you know,
Okay.
in tough moments like a bank or something. So that person wrote that book, and it talks about how to the main lesson that I got from that book is how to on purpose actually listen a person, so you can get to know that person, and then and this is my personal piece, then you can create a strong partnership, right?
Right.
So in that book, he focused one of the first chapters on how to listen a person to see the verbal and the non-verbal messages. Yeah, and you get to know, for example, if you are in a one-on-one with one person, and you see that the person is like playing with the ring or is nervous, maybe you can ask about that first instead of giving all the feedback why that person is not doing well.
Right.
Those kind of subtleties helped me significantly in my role as a manager and a leader. That's number one. And number two is one called The Catalyst. Catalyst is a book about, they say, how to make people, uh, how to change people's mind. Is that way? It's very, I think it's very a little bit exaggerated, but the point is that when you want something to be done, like a person change a behavior, let's say that, and you say, okay, why that person is not changing the behavior? For example, a person that smokes and knows that that is not good for their health, however they do, and sometimes those people are doctors, so they
Right.
they mention about it, like why that happens, and they elaborate the reasons, like, hey, usually there are three elements, key barriers that make those things happen. So the way you can handle those barriers is this way. So they start to teach you how to handle those situations. Is being very helpful for me to know the barriers. So instead of trying to persuade a person just because, like, try to understand what are the main barriers and see if there is a way to handle those barriers.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. So, man, to summarize, if you were an engineer who's 10 years behind where you are, I think what you would say to them is be stubborn, right? Be stubborn,
Definitely.
and
Yeah.
then keep your eye on the overall business goals that you're trying to achieve when you're in the code on a daily basis. Would that be a fair summary?
Totally, totally. I would add another one, and it's related to my favorite movie, which is The Matrix. I actually have
Okay.
a tattoo of, the plug where you connect, where
Yeah.
Neo connects. I have that on my neck, and and to me that movie, that was very, it created a big impact on me, because to me it's like, hey, everybody has a, and I also learned that with the Steve Jobs, that he says, hey, there's a way to see life. Like, you go to school, then you get a job, you get a house, you get married, and have some fun and get old, right? To me, that was the Matrix. Like, that's the usual reality that everybody has, and that's what you are told, right? Maybe by your family or your country or your peers. But there is another, there is something else, and that else was like, besides the Matrix. That's how I connected that concept. So for me, the third piece, the third piece of advice would be, there's a life that you can actually build instead of fitting on the life that you are told. You can do something entirely different. Now that has a cost of very hard working and trying to find the solution, in things that are apparently not able to be done. That
Right.
would be the third one. Yeah.
Nice. Very good. Well, man, I think that's a good place to leave it. I think I'd promised you we'd try to keep it to that half hour. I know that people that listen to this who are like me, after about 48 minutes, my attention span is gone. So we want people to listen. John, I've really enjoyed chatting with you, man. And I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me, Wes. It was very nice to meet you, and hope to see the channel getting to grow a lot.
Yeah, I hope this gets 10
Okay.
million views.
Yeah.
It was great talking to you, John.
Awesome. Thank
Hey,
you.
be well, man.
You too. Bye bye.
Next day.